watching Gearz.
You know, no matter where you look these days, it seems like somebody is doing a makeover on something. Whether it's a house or your clothes or your hair or your teeth or you name it, somebody's probably doing a makeover on it, to the point of where it's getting ridiculous. But to a car guy, the idea of the makeover is almost as old as cars themselves, because since the very beginning, guys have been taking their vehicles, modifying them to make them look the way they wanted them to look. The question is, how far can you go with that? Is it possible to take a vehicle and modify it so drastically that it becomes an entirely different vehicle? I'm talking about something that somebody would look at and have no idea what it once was. And that's a pretty serious change, because even as modified as Sergeant Rocky is here, you can still see the 41 Dodge truck in there. Well, that kind of transformation is possible, and to prove that, we started a project called the Banshee, which involved taking a 95 Mazda Miata and turning it into a mean, macho machine like a Shelby Cobra. And the reaction of some was not surprising. What? A Mazda Miata? What, are you crazy? That's a girl's car, man. But all that changed when we started tearing the car apart. And stuffing in a 400 horsepower small block Ford engine and a T5 5-speed transmission. On the suspension side, there were performance shocks and springs to make it handle, as well as much bigger brakes to help pull this thing to a stop. Now, there were a lot of changes made to the car. We're gonna cover all those again on a later show, because the most significant change in terms of a visual makeover came in the installation of a body kit, which began to transform the car from a 90s mall cruiser into a vintage European sports car. This car came out of Florida. I never know what's going to be inside these fenders. Whoa. Hey, here we go. A little bit of beach sand. At this point, it's still possible, if you chicken out, to bolt all this stuff back on the car and try to forget about this whole thing. You know, get some counseling and try to ask the little car's forgiveness for trying to tear it apart. With the front end finished, the rear got some new skin too. And it was held on with bolts and screws and some really nasty structural epoxy. And that's the last that anybody has seen of the Banshee. And I've been getting a lot of questions about it. What happened to it? Was all that surgery successful or what? Well, paint is what happened to it. And as far as that surgery being successful, well, you can be the judge of that. Okay, first things first. The paint is once again a collaboration between Ron Payton at PPG and myself, and it is a really cool metallic blue with a metallic silver stripe. Now these have the look and the punch and the sparkle of a three-stage candy color, but these are base clear. Now the reason we do the base clear is because it's a lot easier for a novice or a beginning painter to get good results out of these in their shop. It's also a lot easier to touch up when you scratch it. Of course, the color is called Banshee Blue, and it joins the rest of our custom PPG colors. And you can get these colors at Auto Body Color and Supply in Nashville, Tennessee, or you can go on our website, get the mixing formulas, go to your local paint store, and have them mix them up for you. Now, the paint work on this thing was carried out by Malcolm Pritchett and his crew at West Kentucky Collision Center in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. And they did a fantastic job. Now, don't let the collision name fool you. These guys do superb restoration and custom work as well as collision work.
I've been doing it for 25 years. My grandfather worked at Ford, painting Model A and Model T cars. My great uncles were all body men. As a matter of fact, I have some of their hand-me-down tools in my tool chest.
The body of the Banshee was completely disassembled and then worked and tweaked until every seam, every opening was perfect. Then it was meticulously taped off to keep overspray from going everywhere. With the body all prepped and ready to go, Dwayne started laying on the paint. After that, the guys cut it and buffed it and detailed it and dropped it back off to the shop. And we're going to take a good look at it in just a minute. Hey, you're back on Gearz. And if you're just getting here, you're probably wondering what this exotic sports car is. Well, believe it or not, it started out life as a '95 Mazda Miata, but now it's called the Banshee. And you can build a car like this cheaper than you think. Now, it's already been massaged and brought back here by the guys at West Kentucky Collision Center. They shot on the custom PPG paint. Now we're going to take you up close and personal on this thing, show you some of the things we did to it to make it a truly unique vehicle. So let's get to it. Now, the first thing that captures your attention when you look at this thing is that black scoop on the hood, because you might remember that this body kit did not come with a scoop on the hood. It was just flat. I added that because, first of all, it makes the car look better. Second of all, we can definitely handle some cold air going down into that engine. So yeah, this is functional. Now, if you think that scoop looks familiar, you're right. It's a Boss 302 Mustang shaker scoop that we got from Keystone Restyling Products, and it was blended into the hood by Chris Dicus at Dicus Customs. Then, to make it all really pop, we painted it with a flat black, brought out a nice silver stripe to accent the body line, took it all the way down into the nose. The coolest factor in the nose, though, is the covered headlights and the round turn signals that really set off the front end, giving it that classic Ferrari Jaguar look. Under the hood, you'll notice that everything has been all smoothed out and painted to match, so this looks like a factory car. And that is so important to do on your project, because you don't want the body and the engine and the rest of the car to look like it came from 3 different places. No, you want it all to match and make sense. Now, obviously, the best way to do this is to pull out the engine and drivetrain so you can get in there and detail it out properly. And of course, make sure that you redo all your wiring and all your fuel lines, so when you put it back together, you pop the hood, it looks like a factory original exotic car. Rolling down the side of the car, you'll notice that the side scoops were opened up and made functional for the proper sports car look. And the fat curves of the body flow all the way around the back, making you think this is anything but a Miata. Matter of fact, the only things left that even hint at the Mazda heritage is the windshield frame and the door handles. Now, obviously, I'm still in the process of putting this thing back together from the paint shop, and as good as it looks, there is still one major piece missing on the body, and that is the side mirrors. Now this Italia kit doesn't come with any specific mirror, and you definitely don't want to put the old Miata mirror back on because it's just big and gaudy and ugly. It just doesn't match the look of the car now. So to fix that, we went to year one and got a couple of these cool little bullet side mirrors that came on the original Shelby Cobras and the Mustangs and all those 60s sports cars. And that is the look that we're after. So let's get these things on. The first step is to get in the seat and determine where the mirrors need to sit so you can see out of them when you're driving the car. Then drill the holes for the base. Now ideally you want to do this before you paint the car, but in this case the mirrors came in after the car was painted. But if you use tape to protect the paint and take your time, you're not going to have any problem here. That is what this car needed. Look at that, that's sweet. And that's the cool thing about a project like this. Every little thing that you do brings it that much closer to being done. Now, obviously, I still have some things to do to this car. Got to put the interior back in. Got some cool things to show you on that in a couple weeks. Then, I'm going to stick this back in, put all the accessories on, do an exhaust system. Then we're going to wire it and fire it and take it down the road really fast. And I know you're going to want to see that. You know, one dilemma that every gearhead faces when they get a new project is what direction do you go with it? I mean, do you restore it back original or do you cut it up and hot rod it? And that question gets even more important the more rare and valuable vehicle you've got. And that is exactly the position that Jeff Kelderman was in when he happened to stumble across a very rare 68 GTX convertible. On one hand, a stock GTX is worth a lot of money, especially these days, and they're pretty fast. On the other hand, a hot-rodded GTX has the potential to be really fast and still worth a lot of money. So fortunately, the hot rodder in Jeff won out, and the big Plymouth went under the knife. Of course, Jeff knew the lines and the styling of these classic Mopars is right on the money, so the body remained relatively untouched, except for a few subtle tweaks to clean it up a little bit. The dark green paint is actually a factory color, and so are those white GTX side stripes running down the sides. Now, when you add to that the fact that this is a ragtop, well, you have a seriously cool car. However, this is where things start to get a little crazy. I want you. I want you. I'm after you. You're talking to me? You're talking to me? Talk to the Hemi. Because right in the middle of that original hood, you've got 8 ram tubes sticking up like a porcupine. And they're not fake either. No. These are sucking air down into a Hilborn fuel injection, then down into a massive 472 Hemi that's packing enough horsepower and torque to lift this thing into orbit. On top of that, the roar from that big Hemi comes right out underneath you and dumps out the side, right at any unsuspecting minivan that happens to pull alongside. And suddenly you have a car with enough attitude to try to hunt down everything in its path and devour it. Now, back in the day, if you had a nasty engine like this, you had a stick behind it so you could shift those gears yourself. So, tucked in behind the Hemi is a 5-speed with a custom stick so you can drive this thing like a real muscle car. Now, granted, the suspension on most 60s cars left a lot to be desired, especially by today's standards. But since this car was actually built to drive, the suspension was upgraded for better handling, and with better brakes and modern rubber, it would be safe to drive something like this all the time, if you could afford the gas. The interior also has a few surprises because it retains a stock look with leather upholstery on the seats and the door panels. But it does have a few added speakers in the rear. The dash, on the other hand, is completely custom made and has aftermarket gauges to monitor the engine. The console is also custom made and houses a serious state-of-the-art thumper stereo because, well, that's the only way you're going to hear it over the engine. Now, when you add it all up and you see what a difference a few changes can make to a car, well, it's pretty easy to see why very few muscle cars remained stock back when they hit the streets in the 60s. I mean, these were a customizer's dream. They still are. And since this is a show that's all about encouraging people to get out and build something and make it your own, well, we got to give Jeff a big thumbs up for building a car like this. Now, some of you purists, well, you may want to hold up a little different finger to Jeff for doing something like this, but come on. You have to admit, deep down inside, you like this car. I mean, you can see yourself driving it and shifting the gears. Come on, admit it. You like this. You can hear the motor. You want something like this. Admit it. Come on.
Parts Bin, brought to you by Cherry Bomb, disturbing the peace since 1968.
If you're building or restoring a car or truck, you probably realize how important undercoating is because it keeps the vehicle from sounding like a tin can. But it doesn't just knock down sounds and squeaks and rattles. No, it also reduces temperature coming through the floor and through the firewall. So it's pretty important. Now, what you may not realize is that there is a new undercoating out there called lizard skin. Now, this is a ceramic insulation that you just spray on, and it will drop temperatures by up to 30 degrees inside the car and reduce sound by about 15 decibels. Now, I know you're looking at this stuff going, there ain't no way you can spray that on. Well, the kit comes with a special spray gun with a big orifice there, so this will spray on. It doesn't have to be thick, and it cleans up with water. So, when your project is ready for some undercoating or some insulation, you need to make sure that you've got some lizard skin around. Everybody knows that keeping your vehicle clean is a good thing. Not just because it looks good, but because it protects your paint. And paint jobs are expensive, you need to take care of them. But the problem is, a good wash and wax job, and it takes a long time. You know, that whole wax on, wax off deal. Well, Armor All has got a solution to that with this Ultra Shine Wash and Wax. Now, basically what they've done is take cleaning agents, mix it with a high-quality carnauba wax, so you pour this in the bucket, you wash the car, and when you dry it off, it looks like you just finished waxing the car, which basically you have, but in a fraction of the time that it would usually take you to do a wash and wax, which means you have more time to drive and enjoy the car and not be sitting polishing and waxing. When it comes to working on stuff in your shop, there is one problem that most gearheads face. How do you load big, heavy stuff in and out of your truck bed without killing yourself? Well, if you got a crane like this, it's a lot easier, but a crane is a little hard to take down to the local salvage yard. What you really need is a crane that's shrunken down and portable, right? Right, it's called a Spitz lift. Now this is a portable crane that allows you to load some really heavy stuff into your truck all by yourself. And the best part is it'll just hang there with its brake until you are ready to release it. Look at that, that's cool. Now, this particular Spitz lift is mounted through the receiver hitch, but you can also get one that mounts up here in the bed so you have a little more clearance. Now, for you lazy guys, you can even get one that's got an electric winch. So, if you need to move some big heavy stuff into your truck or trailer, you've got to have a Spitz lift.
And now, what are you working on?
For today's What Are You Working On, we've got us a muscle car guy here, and he is from Houston, Texas, and his name is Kit Sullivan. Now, he's got a great story because in 1970, he and his dad went down to the Ford dealership, and they bought Kit a brand new 1971 429 powered Mustang. Take a look at it, man. What a great car. Now, the story gets better, though, because Kit was only 14. He couldn't drive the car. So they stuck it in the garage until 74. Then it became Kit's car, and by his own admission, he proceeded to beat the snot out of it. Here's a shot of him back in the day. Look at him, man. He is ready to roll. Now, he said it was his daily driver until 95, and it's got almost 400,000 miles on it. Now, as incredible as that is, one of my favorite parts is he met his future and still current wife in the car, and they have 6 kids. The cool thing about this story is that most people never get a chance to even have a car like they used to have, let alone keep the original car the whole time. Man, you got a special car there. I hope one of those 6 kids gets it. If not, I know the perfect place for it to sit. You just let us know. We'll put it right there. Now, for the rest of you guys, if you're wondering how to get your vehicle on the show, man, send something in to gearstv.com and we'll see if we can get it on the air. All right. You know what Kit's working on. You know what I'm working on. It's your turn. Get out there and work on something and then go drive it like Kit does. We'll see you next week.